Previously on Twigging Onto Twig. Hi, I'm Dante.
And I'm Tommy.
And you're listening to Twigging Onto Twig, a podcast where we talk about Wildbow's most militant web serial, Twig.
Today's episode, we have a very special guest, Jenny, co-host of Poke in Comparison.
Yay! What's up, Stitches?
Do we want to cut it off here and reconvene to do the rest of it later, or...?
Let's call it here for now, then.
Okay.
We'll see you soon.
Florgle Blaster.
I'm recording now, so everything you say is fair game for Tommy's splicing.
Okay. Oh no, I gotta be careful.
Yep, I'm going to record everything as future blackmail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Elliot?
because you don't have anything like that on me already.
Here, Elliot came up with a good slogan that I feel like I'm not gonna do justice. Not that you guys need a slogan, but he was like, "Let's get twiggy with it."
All right, that's the intermission right there.
I feel was that enough oomph though? I feel like you need to be like,
say it again. Give it. Oh,
give it your best guess.
Drum roll to it.
"Let's get twiggy with it." What? Get twiggy with it. What? Right. That's kind of how that song goes, right? Either just made it up, right? So. Okay, there you go. You're welcome. So.
All right.
So sorry. Okay. Anyway, speaking of weird people, we're gonna talk about characters now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get on with characters. So, as per usual, we get Sylvester first.
Sylvester gets the pride of place because if you ask him who deserves pride of place, he will tell you it's himself.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes.
And he just has a bunch of fun moments. I think everything we pulled here was just a thing he said.
That was
just fun.
Yeah, he's just a fun guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked right at the beginning where he says, we're talking about Rick and Jamie fussing over him in the rain. And Sai was like, if I get sick, the Academy will make me better. And it's that's a lot of trust in letting the Academy do it for...
Yeah.
I feel like it's just an easy retort that does not actually, it's not something that Sai would actually want. Just
but
easy rebuttal response.
That's true. But Jamie has a good point. If they do that, they'll give you an appointment, and how fun is that?
Yeah, I feel like he's just not that concerned with his own personal well-being. I don't know. I feel like he's just willing to take the risk.
Yep.
Yep, that's true. He's the sort of person who's he hates the appointments, he hates the whole thing, but if it happens to future Sai, then he doesn't really care.
Yeah, because future Sai's a dick.
Yeah, that's his problem.
Fuck that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I just thought it was also, we talked about this a little bit yesterday in terms of the structure of the way this chapter is written, but there's a very clear distinction between Sai before the folder and Sai after.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that Sai saying he's going to try for real with the handwriting when normally he'd be messing with Jamie and making it illegible to some degree. And
yeah, that's true.
Though I guess there's a little bit.
This was when he offered to write in the notebook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie was tired, so he's let me get it down for you, so you have it all. Just a sweet moment.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
He can be sweet when he wants to.
Yeah. Towards people he cares about and is willing to be sweet with.
Yeah.
When he wants to.
And I think, but I think, even when he's not being sweet with Jamie or whatever, it's more like sibling ribbing than it is active hostility like it is with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Jamie's relationship is great.
Yeah, it's adorable.
It's
But
adorable.
I guess there's a little bit of the rambunctious, for lack of a better word, Sai when he's like, can I share a room with Mary?
I know. It's
that was hilarious, especially because it was completely innocent.
It was, but she's like, no, that's not proper.
Yeah.
I also was don't poor Jamie. Stay with Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie doesn't want to have to stay with Helen.
Helen.
Who would have a worse time if Jamie and Helen were roommates?
Oh, like when Jamie, right?
Yeah, I think that's It's really
like
unnerving watching Helen like sleep hanging upside down from the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I do love Helen, but yeah, she's
You don't think Helen would find Jamie gets on her nerves as well? Maybe it's just because she doesn't have any nerves to be gotten on.
Yeah, I feel like she doesn't. I mean, we've never seen her be. Have we seen her actually emote in a way that is not her acting?
I
don't
mean,
think she.
I don't think we know.
That's
say
a
no.
valid point.
But like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like she just doesn't. She's just a blank slate.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and she has roomed with like actual
children,
bowel dwellers.
Yeah.
Before, so
yeah. I mean, honestly, if she gets irritated by like anybody else, it's like
that's true.
She should have a very high tolerance.
It'll be funny if like Mary right now is afraid of Helen and very worried about having to room with her, but imagine if like in a couple of chapters we find out that Helen is very concerned about having to stay with Mary, and Mary's like, oh yeah, Helen's fine. And Helen's like, I don't feel comfortable.
She's got to make a good impression.
Yeah. See, Tommy would take that as a confirmation of his Mary is sus theory.
Mary is sus, as the thing.
I mean,
I'm less sold on that as we've moved along, but I'm sure that's just what Wild Bill wants me to think.
Yeah, that's true. You never know. I mean, even her name is like even too innocent, right? Like Mary.
Well, because even the rhyme "Mary had a little lamb." I mean, she has Cy and
oh damn.
Yep, suspicious. Tell you.
I mean, it's all right there.
Okay, well, see, now you've convinced me.
Mary, quite contrary.
What?
I said, Mary, quite contrary. Like, how does your garden grow? You know that?
No, I don't know it.
No?
Nope.
How else does it go with
with silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row?
All in a row. That's the one.
Yeah. It's very important in the secret garden.
It's been
a while.
At least 25 years.
Because they make fun of her for being named Mary and having a garden.
Oh.
Which is like, oh, wow.
I know, so horrible, right?
Yeah,
that's like
kids are assholes.
be nice to have a nice little garden.
Yeah, like you're just jealous that like you don't have a green thumb. All your plants die, kill everything.
There was that book and another book. I can't remember. They're like inextricably linked in my mind, except it's been so long they're no longer linked because I can't remember the other one. So never mind.
It was the sequel to The Secret Garden that only exists in a certain magical bookstore.
I think it was a book that had to do with like, I want to say that same kind of time period, and like the kid is like his parents died on the way back from India or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it The Little Princess?
Hey, that's The Little Princess. Yeah.
Is it? Possibly.
Yeah. And then she had to be like the maid, and
I think there were like two. We had like this one book that had both of those back to back in the book. So
okay, that would conflate them.
Yeah. I feel like I should read those again. It's been a long time.
Enjoyed them. Your kids.
True. Right now they wouldn't appreciate it. They'd just be like
a few years down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can read it to them now before they can appreciate it, and then they won't realize that it's something that they're supposed to like be like, oh, we don't want to hear this, because they're too young to care about such things.
True, but they also just might be like, okay, Mom, we're gonna wander off and do what we want.
Fair.
But
So I do feel like the most important line of this chapter is me who would outlast the rest and who would wish I hadn't.
Referring to the expiry dates.
And it's interesting. I'm assuming, like you said, excluding Lillian and presumably Mary. Does Mary have an expiration date? Do they know? She does. Would Percy have one in? Like,
I kind of was like, if he would outlast the rest, including Lillian and Mary, maybe that means he's immortal. and this like thing, whatever they've done to him to make him super schemy, also just like makes him so that he lives for centuries and centuries.
Or his, yeah,
it's the same. It's the same thing that Queen Victoria the Immortal has been taking.
It's tested on little children first.
Yes.
I mean, got to test it on somebody. I feel like, I don't know, maybe.
Do you think that the reason he would wish he hadn't is only because he would have to see the loss of all of his siblings? Or do you think there's more to it than that?
I don't know. I would say that's it.
So would I. I mean, I'm sure there's other things that go along with that, like the less of them there are, the more work falls on him. But
well, they do have plans to replace the Broken Lambs.
Yeah, but I mean, if Sai's able to remember the old ones, like he's grown up with Gordon 1 and Jamie 1 and Helen 1 and all that, and if version 2.0 comes around, he's going to be comparing them, and there's not going to be that same connection, that same report. It maybe would be interesting to see Sai in like this protective, big brotherly way.
It's hard to imagine at this point, but yeah, it would be interesting.
And I think part of like that is directly tied into how he reacts to knowing that he almost prevented their little siblings from being brought back, whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think we had a couple other notes for Sylvester.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy, like that guy treating Sylvester and be like, this Bruce is gonna turn a really fun, like, what do you say, orange color. And Sylvester's just like, fuck off.
Just like I can hear like with such like it's like dripping with contempt, like fun color, like
yeah, isn't that neat?
I don't know. I think an orange Bruce would be kind of neat because so who'd be all about that is Lillian. She'd be like, oh man, let's like
see an experiment.
Geek out about this this Bruce color for a few minutes.
But Sai doesn't want to be talked to like a child, condescended to, even if it's almost certainly not malicious or hostile. Sai is still like treating
or even condescending because the color is genuinely fun.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, like I don't know if Lillian would care that much about an orange Bruce.
Just because she would. If it was an interesting and fun and novel
and caused by the medicine rather than
is it that interesting and novel? Bruises turn pretty weird colors as they get old.
That's true, but orange isn't usually one of them, is it?
I mean, they turn yellow.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure depending on the skin, like I don't think orange is that. It's not. I mean, unless it's like a very orange, like a Cheeto.
Mm-hmm. Like,
well, that's what I'm imagining.
I guess that's
I was just assuming it was like regular bruising coloring, like old bruise turns like yellowish, greenish, orangish before fading.
Okay,
that's what I was kind of like. But
it's also true that like if they're using this medication on multiple people and know what to expect, then it's not particularly novel. So.
That's true. I mean, yeah, I guess that's true though. If it is like a specific bruising to this medication, like medicine can do weird stuff. Like there's things that can make your pee turn blue, So, like, I don't know.
I want to bet that the person who developed this medicine deliberately added the orange pigment just to make it more fun.
But like, it's not immediately turning orange, right?
Oh, he was like, it's like eventually this will turn colors, which is why I took it to be just like, oh, the natural process. I think it was just look at this bruise; it's going to be a gnarly bruise.
Yeah.
Rather than
that's how I took it too, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know because this place is weird. It could be some like. It's going to be like a jack-o'-lantern on your arm, basically. Like,
I mean, it could be that bright Cheeto orange is also a normal color for bruises in this setting.
Yeah, that's true. I would be like, what happened to you? Why did you
It's like, just because of the diet and the atmosphere, like, it turns all of our bruises orange. That's just
side effect of the rain bacteria, I'm sure is in everyone.
So I don't know why that well, I do know why, because it's color orange, but my dad told me a story where he had a patient come into his office and his skin and the whites of his eyes were like all orange. And he was like, what the hell? And so I guess the patient had like I think he had bladder cancer, and he had read somewhere that carrots were really good cancer, and he just like ate and drank so much carrots and carrot juice that it literally like turned his skin into the whites of his eyes.
That's hilarious. Wasn't there an episode of the Magic School Bus about that?
I don't know, but there might have been, but apparently it could actually happen. So.
That's crazy. I think I'd heard that like it was a thing that I cannot conceive of consuming that much carrot.
No.
Yeah, I feel
that's wild.
I mean, that man must never have eaten another carrot in his life. Because I mean, like, you have to be so.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you mean I don't have to eat carrots? Like, great, I'm never touching a freaking carrot again.
Like, oh, this isn't going to cure my cancer. Okay, I still have to do chemo. All right, I guess I'll start eating other vegetables.
Ones that won't turn you orange.
Ones that won't turn you orange. Jeez.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I need to Google that. Yeah. No. How much carrot to eat to turn orange?
That's a great question.
You need 20 to 50 milligrams of beta-carotenes per day for a few weeks.
How many carrots?
Eating 10 carrots a day for a few weeks. That's actually not as
really?
many
as much as I would have
expected.
That's not as much as I would have thought.
I mean, this is apparently this is according to the Cleveland Clinic Health Essentials.
If I want to turn orange.
Carrots can be pretty big, so if you're eating one of those 10 of those giant carrots every day, that's a lot of carrots.
That's a lot of carrots.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's talking about the average carrot, the platonic ideal of a carrot.
Yeah.
Exceptional carrots.
Like, huh.
10 carrots a day for a few weeks. That's not that's doable.
That's doable. I was picturing multiple bushels of carrots, and wow. I feel like that's doable. Style.
I wonder if it's unhealthy.
I mean, I'm sure
it's unhealthy if you're not eating anything else.
Well,
yeah, and carrots do have a lot of sugar in them, and I mean, yeah, you need some other. I mean, he must have been really full, or he wasn't eating much else. But I mean,
10 carrots would be a lot.
That'd be kind of a lot, but maybe he had a very diverse breakfast, and then he's
snacks on carrots throughout the day.
Yeah, I wonder if he cooked them. I wonder if that makes a difference.
I would imagine if it made a difference, it would make it that you'd have to eat more.
Yeah, so I'm I feel like that would be a lot easier to prepare them in different ways.
Yeah, I used to make a pretty good salad. It was just carrots. Use a vegetable peeler, make them very thin slices, and toss it with a bit of whatever dressing and some basil. Good. It was really nice.
That sounds really nice.
I should do that.
Yeah. Make it with 10 carrots. See how much salad that makes you.
Eat it day for a few weeks.
This is for science.
For science. Take a picture every day, and you can compare how orange your skin is getting.
We'll present our findings to the Academy for
funding. It'll be useful in the war.
Yes.
How?
Camouflage against all the bruises.
It's in the really orange surroundings that we have.
Turns out the red leaves are actually mostly orangish, and
okay, so yes, I mean, I like that. Then you could actually, that would be good camouflage.
It only works in the fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. Okay.
Shall we go on to the next, to the other lamps?
Let's do it.
Well, I just wanted to also note before we do that Sai just casually, hey, so the guy that we were interrogating didn't tell us this bit of information. So if you want to test parasites on him, that's cool with me.
Oh, yeah. I damn. It's pretty funny. That's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that he was going to be a test subject for parasites anyway.
I was just imagining he'd be a stitched.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
be a stitched after you get tested for parasites.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a great time.
No.
Mm-mm.
It kind of sucks for him that Sai figured out about the whistle. Because Maurer said, whatever you do, don't tell about the whistle. You can tell anything, but don't tell about the whistle. He's like, okay, fine. They won't find out about the whistle.
And yet
it happens that Sai happens to notice.
Yep.
Happens to notice the whistle, and then, that sucks.
Yep. Yet another person underestimating Sai.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people, I feel like.
Which is Sai's worst nightmare.
Yep.
Yes.
But it also helps him so much.
True.
Yeah. He's one of those people who has, like, an ability that he hates. He doesn't actually hate it,
But, yeah. He hates being a child with it.
Yeah.
Just wait a few years. You'll outlast them all.
Assuming it's a few years.
Yeah.
Might be a few days.
Oh, jeez. All right.
All right. Gordon is next in our notes. I think you, Dante. Was that you or was that you, Jenny? This line?
No, that was me. I was like, well, every single one of the lambs has like a moment in this chapter to shine and show a bit of their personality. And for Gordon, I think that the biggest one was his reaction to the expiry dates, which was more than just like, oh no, moroseness. It was like, if you ever dare to tell me or hint to me what my date is, I will never forgive you.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I get it, but that's like...
It's very dramatic.
Yes. I'm almost surprised that he didn't say, if you dare, I will, like, beat you into a puddle or something like that.
I think the forgiveness, though, is more
that kind of hits harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, physical punishment, whatever, that
happens to Sai all the time.
Yeah, like, he gets over that.
Yeah.
But, like, the social, the emotional connections being gone is a bigger deal, yeah.
Especially that he knows that, like, you know, they're all gonna expire or pass or whatever. Like, and if he has that, you know, he's never gonna forgive me until the day that he dies or expires. Yeah.
And like, honestly, this is probably the reaction I would have to hearing about an expiry date. Like, you dare tell me.
Yeah. Like, I just don't want to know.
I don't know. I don't know if I would want to know. Like, I can definitely see wanting to know and then trying to make the most of what was left. Discussion question. Would you want to know the date of your death?
I mean, it depends. Like, if I was sick and the doctor was like, here's your prognosis, then that's one thing. If it was like a prophet being like, let me foretell the day and method of your passing, then I would be like, no, heck off.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Because then, like, I don't know. What if it's next month? Like, I'd be...
What if it's tomorrow?
Exactly. Like, I don't want to spend the rest of my short life, like, freaking out. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, on the other hand, sure, you could call people and, like, try to do things, but...
Be ready and, like, have your affairs in order.
Yeah, that's true. I do need to, like, get a will.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to. I know.
Or even, like, what if it's, like, 70 years from now, and then you spend the next 70 years with that kind of hanging over your head?
Hell yeah, I'll be 103.
Yeah, like, that's a decent...
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I don't know. If it's like, I've seen some patients that are, like, close to that age or around that age and that actually look really good. But I've also seen some patients that, like, are in their 60s that look like
200.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, most people who get really old, it's like, you kind of want to go, you know?
Yeah.
Or it's like you get some sort of, like, debilitating illness tomorrow, and then you're like, oh, I have to put up with this for the next 70 years.
Yeah.
Though all of us are fairly young, it's easy to be saying this from our perspective. I'm sure, you know, 70 years down the line, our perspective might be a bit different on the immediacy of death.
I'm 103, and you will tell me when I will die. Go for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like just in terms of death, like, I don't know, nurses and people in the medical field have kind of usually like a little bit of a different outlook, I think, than a lot of people, just because, like, I don't know. It's really hard to, like, see your loved one, like, in, you know, dying. And so most people, it's, like, natural to want to do everything they can to bring them back and to help them. But they don't really see, like, what happens because of that decision all the time. Or, like, it's hard to see. Whereas, like, we see that with patients, which is not really the same thing we were talking about, I guess, but I just had to think of it.
It does tie into it, I think. It's definitely connected.
Yeah. So it's like, there's so many people where it's like, where they'll come in and be like, oh my gosh, there's still a full code. Oh no. you know, and it's like, I mean, and some people are really, really young. And I mean, I think we had a patient that was actually my age, like 33, that should have been, yeah, it was like, she should have, you looked at her and I'm pretty sure she has passed by now. Like, it's like she was maybe going to last like another week. She just was really, really doing bad, but she was still a full code. And it's like, at that point, you have to let him go, because it's pretty brutal to try to bring somebody back. Like your ribs get broken and you get stuff shoved down your throat and like all this stuff. And it's like, just let him go, like, like you don't want your 95-year-old grandmother like with a bunch of broken ribs and like intubated and like, just let her go.
Sure.
But it's easier said that than
doing it or having it happen in real life to like yourself.
Yeah. And I know some nurses that worked in the ICU during COVID, and I saw a lot of COVID patients coming to our department and doing pics and stuff like that. It was really brutal, but like, they would say, I remember a lot of them were kind of traumatized just, by all the death and everything they've seen. But like, is the doctors would want to do everything they could to like keep the patient alive, and and would be trying to talk the patient's family members into doing everything they could, which at a certain point, again, it's kinder to stop.
I don't know if like this is the right phrasing, but almost at the patient's expense.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's done out of love, but it's like you're kind of torturing this person by doing this to them, yeah.
I do not envy your profession, at least, especially not in these past few years.
Oh my gosh, it sucked. It sucked. And like, we have like no freaking supplies still. Like, we're like, okay, like COVID, not just because of all the patients and everything, like, like the hospital's getting overfilled, but a lot of our supplies and like our contrast, like just a lot of things come from China, and they shut down a lot of their plants, at least for like a long time. And we are still like super low on certain
for sure.
Like certain supplies. Like, I think they told us, we had a shortage of like D50, which is like the 50% dextrose, which is, you need that because if you have a diabetic patient whose sugar's crashing, you need to be able to give them like a lot of sugar really quick. Like, I think like epinephrine, there was a shortage of that. Like, we had a contrast shortage. There was like all sorts of things that are like, geez, we should not have a shortage.
Yikes,
these are essential.
This is really important. Yeah. Especially like, well, for our department, like, we need a lot of contrast because we're doing x-rays, like, and we need contrast. So it's like, what do we do if we don't have contrast? But yeah, so we're still dealing with that.
Yeah, still rough.
Yeah, it sucks. Anyway,
well, if you could, grow contrast slugs in your academy and just apply
them. Solution to everything.
Yummy contrast slugs. I mean, I guess they could go back to the old way of making, like, because they're not derived from shellfish or fish anymore, or at least the ones that we use. But like, they tend to, it's traditionally like if you have a shellfish or fish allergy, you don't get contrast, but like, it's not derived from that anymore. But I guess they could go back to that.
That's interesting. Do you know like what fish or product or what? Like,
no,
I'm assuming they're not just like getting like chum from the fishing ships and grinding it up and injecting it.
I honestly have not looked into it, but no, I don't think that that's how they do it. I want to say like the shells of like shrimp and stuff, but I could be just making that up. Yeah, no, there's like certain allergies that like we have to kind of watch out for in medicine. Like, let's see, allergy to eggs.
Because aren't like a good number of vaccines incubated, or not? I don't know if incubated is the right word, but like grown like, in eggs.
I believe so, or yeah, and like heparin. That's a type of blood thinner. Like if you have an allergy to like pork or pig, you can't take that because it's, I think, derived from a pig. There's just like certain random things like that.
You say things like that, and then you realize how Wildbow did not have to dig deep for the Academy stuff. It's like, let's hook up a pig to this person and hope that it works. And it's like, oh.
Man. I mean, like,
I'm tongue-in-cheek there.
Yeah.
Not really saying that you're hooking up pigs to like patients and
no, we are not. But I mean, like,
not in her department anyway.
No, not in my department.
Like there is a certain like inherent gruesomeness to like these. You read like about projects where people are trying to grow human organs for transplants in pigs and stuff, and that does have a little bit of this body horror twiggish feel to it.
But it's like it's pretty cool.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's like just... it is also like what the hell is going on? What are we doing? That we've done a lot of things to experiment with people's health, I guess, and history.
Yeah. So anything else either of you want to say about Gordon, or should we move on to...
Sorry, Gordon, we didn't even talk about you that much.
You're just a springboard onto more interesting subjects.
Burn. Sorry, Gordon. Okay. All right, Jamie. I love Jamie so much.
Jamie is interesting because we have these mysterious scars that are noticed by the hedge doctors.
Yeah.
And then they're so bad that like Sai deliberately turns away to make a point of not seeing them.
I took that as like a kind of respect, or the lambs kind of give each other, because nobody else offers them any kind of privacy or any kind of like humanity. So making a point of those little bits of I guess self-affirming. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like treating each other as human in a way that in a world that doesn't.
Like giving them a little bit more dignity,
exactly.
Yeah, it is nice that they have that with each other.
And I would like to assume that it's not just Jamie and Sai, but like any combination thereof would have had kind of similar.
I think so. But like I feel like with Gordon, like they would still have that respect and dignity, but there wouldn't be that expectation of like making a point to look away the way there is with Jamie. Because Jamie presumably is extremely self-conscious about these scars. In addition to like in the hedge, I sort of figured it was like preserving the secrecy of their project.
Yeah, but it
feels all kind of like trying to hint at like, oh, there's nothing special about us. Pay no attention, whatever.
But it feels more personal.
But it feels more personal when it's just the two of them, and it's like, no, this is like actually something that's like not only a physical scar, but like a deep personal scar as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I took it as much as when they were in or more in public with the scientists, as if they were trying to protect a secret as much as just like Sai was like, hey, like, get away from my friend. Like, he does not want you to look at his scars.
Sure.
I don't trust you guys.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I'm sure that like, each one of the lambs has like a different thing like that they would all respect.
Sure.
I mean, we kind of get the feeling that Sai's is those headaches and stuff after the appointments. He doesn't really want people to know about them, and he's embarrassed, and like that the other lambs kind of, I don't think dote on him for it, but like, treat him like they walk on eggshells around him when he has these headaches. And
just like I was gonna think of but they like tread lightly, I guess.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure where they're going with that, but it's a little bit more hinting into what Project Caterpillar is all about, presumably. Or maybe they're just like completely unrelated. They're like, let's take this kid who happens to have these scars from some other thing, and
potentially.
Yeah, it's true.
Or they built a kid out of a bunch of little other kids.
I mean, that's so fucked, but yeah, maybe. Jeez.
Jamie is a stitched.
Yep.
The real secret.
Mm-hmm. This is actually, that would be interesting because like this whole is it the whole project or just Sai who's under Hale in like the psychology department of the academy?
I think all of them are under Hale, except maybe Helen, who is
who's under Ibit.
Partnership. I think it's a partnership though.
Yeah, because if Jamie is part of like the psychology department that Hale runs, then maybe it is the experiment is to have like an actually smart person have a smart stitched.
Yeah, potentially.
Because that would be breakthrough science and also.
I feel like if that were the case, though,
worth keeping top secret.
Yeah, but I feel if that were the case, Hale would not be considered a dead end.
That's true.
It's like you managed to do what? Like you have a bunch of money, do it again.
Yes. Or maybe they don't like that that's the thing. They're like, we want our Stitch to be dumb and pliable, and you're making them think for themselves? Like, what's wrong with you?
Well, they keep talking about how, like, the newer iterations of Stitch are, like, a little smarter, they're a little better at figuring things out.
Yeah, but they're also better at not
following
having
orders.
Personality quirks.
Yeah, that is true.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and we talked about the last bit of our notes yesterday, so we can jump on to Helen.
Helen.
She also has an expiration date. She is the second to last to go.
Mm-hmm. Which, I think, as we said earlier, is a little bit weird that Ibit would
have an expiration
permit his masterpiece to expire that way, but...
Well, she's not... Is she his masterpiece? I got the impression she was more like the response to a drunk bet. Like, you'll do all these big things. I bet you can't do something small. It's like, yeah, I can.
Okay, well, maybe he doesn't consider her a masterpiece, but I think she's a masterpiece.
Oh, absolutely, she's a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
And we find out also how that Ibit is actually a really good dad, encouraging her to become her own person and develop herself.
Jeez.
Yeah. What a horrible, horrible life.
Yeah.
What did she say? Like, he, like, what is it? Like, he hit me a few times, not hard enough to do any damage, but just because.
Yeah, and it's just like the hypocrisy also, which I'm sure is a large part of the point, where like Ibit punched Sai for letting Helen get like hurt a little bit, and then he's just beating her. Again, hypocrisy is almost certainly the point, but Ibit is not one of those characters that we are ever going to like, I have a feeling. There's not going to be one of those interludes that like recontextualize Ibit in our minds, and it's like,
you say that now, and yet,
I mean,
I've read some of the interludes while Bo's written, and
it would take a lot to make Ibit
you're right.
sympathetic.
You're right.
Yeah, I just feel like, no.
Yeah.
Helen.
Yeah. It does explain her weird
being
actions,
a personness,
her swaying thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that aside from Ibit like forcing her to do this and being the worst, I think Helen exploring who she is as a person, in addition to just being like a template for other personalities, is worth pursuing.
Well, she is an early teen. It's like the time when people kind of do that. They explore their sense of self more, and like, I'm assuming part of that is intentional metaphor.
Probably.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, this is very off topic, but my mom just bought a car and it looks super sweet.
What kind of
breaking news? It's like a 2016 convertible Mini Cooper.
Oh, fun.
It looks pretty snazzy. Oh my gosh.
Driving in style.
That's right. I mean, unless she's just lying about it to mess with us. But
is that your mom?
I mean, I don't think she is. Well, I mean, if it was April Fool's, for sure. But like,
sure. But it is.
Let me just check the date real quick.
Yeah, it is 4/11.
I had to check. I'm like, I know it's not April, but
1/4/2023.
November Fools.
No,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. But anyway, sorry. Back to Helen. One part that just stood out to me that
Helen would totally ride in a convertible Mini Cooper.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Flowing in the wind. And
oh, yeah. Her hair would somehow still be perfect. Like,
of course.
At the end, which
each hair is an octopus tentacle, really thin and long and blonde.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
She has prehensile hair.
Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you, like, your hair looks like a hot mess after
a convertible
ride, unless you're like tying it up, or if you have short hair,
or you do those like the 50s style bandana over your head to like that image of the those...
Yeah, exactly.
You were saying something about Helen?
Yeah. I think the part that like stood out to me, or I just thought was just really funny, was when Mary's sharing the right corner room with Helen, and Helen's like, "Don't worry, I'm harmless." And then she made a little excited sound and said, "One room for the two of us." And she skipped ahead, and Mary looked very disturbed. So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Then,
Helen's trying to soothe Mary's feelings.
I love Helen.
Or she's genuinely happy.
No, she's like for sure just
messing with her.
She's practicing. She's doing her acting practice,
Yeah.
All the time.
But she wants Mary to think that she's happy about it. And I think that's as close as...
Yeah, that's as close to...
It's as close to being happy about it as we can expect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's as good as you're going to get.
Yep. Yeah. At a certain point, there's not really a difference between wanting to feel a certain way and feeling a certain way. If you're...
Yeah, I mean, if the...
I don't know. That's not the best way to word it, but I think you know what I mean.
It's like, at a certain point, like, the impact on the outside world's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Regardless of, like
what's the difference, ultimately?
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then there are the two remaining lambs who are presumably not affected by expiration dates. Lillian, who is
just
as
a
far
normal
as we
human.
As
far as we know, she is as smart as a grade 10 student or not grade 10, whatever 10th level.
She is exceptional.
Yeah, I liked her getting complimented on her fieldwork. I feel like
she deserved it.
Exactly. I feel like there's not been enough of people being like, Lillian, what you did is actually really cool. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was glad she got some good kudos. It just is like, I was interested, like thinking like, what's going through Lillian's head with the awkward silence after she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm with Hale." I was like, cricket.
Well, I can kind of see like he'll like, oh, she's too good for that. We need to like save her, like rescue her, get her into our department, which has a future.
I could see that, but I'm like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
I mean, but yeah, I'm like, I feel like there's got to be some way for her to get out of that and to another spot.
Yeah.
Like,
it makes me wonder more, like what happened that Hale was able to discover this prodigious student before anyone else did.
Yeah.
Enemy 4 is going to be Lillian's perspective.
Don't tell me Lillian's going to be an enemy by arc 4.
I have absolutely read forward.
No, Lillian is so sweet and good. She's going to be that one character who is like, there's
pure.
There's nothing against her anybody could possibly have.
I really liked also just Lillian getting complimented, and then Travis is like, "You did this, Cecil?" He's like, "Yes." It's like,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What a tool.
You're saying he's like not your favorite?
I may have mentioned it once or twice.
Yeah. He's not mine either.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we've got
certainly not least
Mary,
who's refusing to be looked after by anyone but Lillian.
Which honestly, given her astonishing skills compared to everyone else's, like I would too.
Yeah.
If I had to choose between Lillian, who I already know and trust and is good, and some rando who potentially is good, definitely go for Lillian.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely go for Lillian.
Yeah, I did like the whole thing about like welcome home.
Yeah.
To Lambsbridge.
You're officially a lamb now.
Uh-huh.
It's really sweet.
Yeah, as evidenced by Helen.
Yes.
Welcoming her. Yeah.
Do you guys think that like she and Helen are going to bond?
I think so.
No.
Absolutely.
Okay,
and Sai is going to be really mad about it.
Like, nobody's allowed to bond with her but me.
Do you see any, like, painting nails or doing each other's hair or anything? Absolutely. Okay.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah,
I like
and
it.
you know what? They'll have a lot to learn from each other. Like Mary will teach Helen how to. Well,
throw knives.
Mary also is a manufactured human who had to learn how
to be a person.
So
true.
They'll be comparing notes and being like, "I tried doing this today, and everybody thought I was completely normal. So you can try it." And
yeah, like no, you move your face like this. That's awesome.
It'd be fun to read just like a sort of slice of life type interaction of a few days of these two girls just being like two ordinary like teenage girls who also happen to be trying their hardest to be human.
So good.
Yeah, I look forward to all that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she may or may not have an expiry date. We don't know.
We don't know, but it seems unlikely considering the point of her, or at least the original iteration of her project was to, like, over a generation replace everybody in a city with clones. Which,
but then
they start dying.
But then they would have like this trigger phrase or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. It would at least have to be long, and she was still a prototype, I think, for that.
I think so. Yeah.
So you never know.
It's true.
Yeah, and I suppose technically we also have this potential future additional
baby lamb.
Or I don't know if it would be a baby lamb or like a kidnapped child their age
with
modified or constructed from spare parts or grown in a vat or
Is it baby lamb or baby lambs? Or is it just baby
lamb?
They said one of
the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
The two.
Gotcha. That's something.
Yeah.
So presumably, hopefully, we'll find out which of the two. Although I suppose it could be another additional one other than those two that we don't know about.
Yeah, very true.
Or it could be like some sort of hybrid of the two of them.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, we don't know what roles they were supposed to fit, right?
Yeah.
And we know that, like, the lambs have had to learn to do different things because they weren't there, so it'll be interesting to see how they slot in. And I'm also curious how Mary is going to continue being part of the lambs in that kind of situation.
Yeah. I mean, if Mary can fit into the lambs, then an additional...
Yeah, it's not utilitarian type of...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Ooh, so we get to... Sorry, unless you had something else to say. Nope. I just want, like, we're coming up to your favorite person.
Absolutely.
We're talking about other people.
And the first of which is...
people that Tommy doesn't like. Talk about Mary, and then we'll talk about...
He loves them. No.
I wanted to just... It feels really like a continuing theme of Cecil as a character, that he's, like, so really out of touch with, like, the political realities of everything happening around him.
Yeah.
Like, originally he was, like, okay, if you succeed here, you'll get your own private lab that you can do your projects. And he's like, I don't really care about my project. Can I give it to my friend? Which is absolutely not a way to get ahead in the academy.
No.
And then here he's like, I could never work in this part because, I care too much. That's like...
Yeah, I seem to recall you saying less than half an hour ago, "Oh, I don't envy you and your profession over the last few years."
Exactly.
To Jenny.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't... Is there a dissonance between that there?
Oh, I feel like I would not want to work in, like, frontline emergency profession because, like, my personality doesn't really fit well with that. What a jerk. Like, so out of touch.
What I'm saying is the way he phrased that was very condescending. It was like, oh, your work, like, it would be really hard for me to do what you're doing because you just, like, don't care about these people. You're just seeing them as a product. Whereas I would care too much about them. And the doctor's like, yeah, you kind of have to not. You have to, like...
You have to desensitize yourself.
Exactly. It's a defense mechanism.
But also, this is the doctor who is like, yeah, I wish that this war would go on and everyone would die more so that I would have less work to do. Which I feel like is going a little bit beyond the other side of...
That is extreme burnout. Like, damn.
Yeah, but it, like, I feel like that's relatively, like, that kind of dark humor to survive.
Yeah.
This presumably fairly brutal environment.
Yeah, assuming that he's joking. Which
Assuming he's joking.
Is possible.
Is how it's how I read it, but...
He might be half joking.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he might, yeah, I don't know. I mean...
But I do think Cecil is right. He would not be a good fit in an emergency room.
No.
Because he doesn't have the personality to be able to handle it.
Or apparently the skill set, just based on the way Travis reacted to his...
It's like you've got the skills of a hedge doctor, but you can't even make it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I kind of imagine Cecil's like probably well connected or something, so they can't just get rid of him. He's been bouncing around different departments as they like.
Yeah.
You can take this guy for a bit.
We'll just stick him in a lab. He'll be fine.
And like on that note, like despite having been intrinsic to this whole plan and having worked with them, he's still like, nope, grown-ups are talking. Leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the contrast also between the way that like they all treat, they being the Academy, treat Lacey and treat him is just like night and day.
Yep.
Like I can't imagine Hale having handed over the files to Cecil at all.
Oh no.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
I wonder how much more we'll see of Cecil. Like now that this kind of mission that he was assigned on is over and he's got his new lab now and doesn't have to interact with the Lambs anymore. I wonder if we'll see him as a regular fixture or if he'll kind of fade into the background.
I think he'd be fun to continue having as a character.
I agree. And it'd be fun to see him grow as like a person.
Yeah. In whichever direction he grows.
He would. Yeah.
I mean, he can only go up from here.
I mean, don't underestimate them.
He can only go up from here and still be part of the story without being kicked out.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And then in comparison, we have Lacey, who is actually a decent, competent person, and
and like just the fact that she was going to, if what was in the files was not actually all that important, just going to taunt him with it just to like pay back. But because it actually matters, she still could have taunted him with it because it'd be worse if she didn't. Like she's fundamentally a decent person.
Yeah.
And it also shows she has that sort of attitude to them of that sort of like family that they have with each other.
She recognizes, she doesn't see them as just tools.
Yeah.
Despite what Sai thinks.
Yeah. And I think Sai has probably started to recognize that a little bit. He's this chapter, or this arc, he's been...
Yes, but also he was doing that to get something out of her as well. As everyone cheerfully agreed. Sai's a jerk.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder, I like Lacey a lot.
I do too.
I'm glad that when she left in Arc 1, it wasn't for good.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else you want to say about her?
No, not really. I also want to have like just a really brief mention of Briggs, just because like, he's kind of still a one-note character, like big, important.
I'm the CEO of the Academy.
Yes. But I just thought it was interesting that like when he said, all right, everybody out, they literally dropped everything they were doing. Like not even tidying up, like somebody might have been on the operating table and they're just like, okay, drop the tools.
Yeah, arterial blood spurting everywhere. It's like,
that was bad timing. Sorry, man. You had a good life.
Yeah. And I imagine it's not just like because everyone's like respecting him, like, oh, he's the big wig, we do what he say. It's like, no, we will take any excuse to not be in the same room as him.
Yeah.
It's probably
anyway. So now we can talk about Mauer. Mauer, my friends call me Mauer. Mauer.
It's actually Reverend.
Reverend Mauer.
Mauer, my friends call me Reverend. Mauer.
Yeah.
To the third tower.
We talked a bit more on the superficial side of Mauer when we were talking about the war earlier, and like I guess now we're really talking about him and his place in it rather than like the overarching vibe. That's not the right word, but wasn't that line you, Dante, or
Oh, was it?
pretty sure.
Okay. So yeah, so I guess the biggest thing to start with is this idea of him being more Stitch than human. That was kind of like the big point that stuck out from his interlude, was when the captain came over and said, "You're more Stitch than human." And then Mauer is like reminiscing about this, and you know, he thinks I'm more like them than like even the enemy, or like the humans more dead than alive, and this devolves into this whole like personality, like he adopts it as his personality. Yeah. He calls it the gradual quiet slide to being a man who is already dead.
Yeah. And I feel like that specific line, that realization of like us versus them, is the foundation of his whole being, his whole existence, at least before this. The living are against the Academy, who are represented by these dead things, these monstrosities and all that, and we have to fight because otherwise there'll be nothing left. Like his line is like, my worst fear is that there won't even be a fight for you anymore.
Yeah. So I think that this whole attitude of his about like being already dead, being like we've already lost, like his whole plan to get the people to fight the Academy and lose. It's like we have already lost. We have already died. We
are expendable.
We're beyond that now.
Yeah. And yet he still believes in intrinsic human kindness, which I thought was an interesting contrast.
Yes. Well, maybe dead humans are intrinsically kind too.
Absolutely. I think that's like
humans are kind. Dead humans are kinder.
Not necessarily kinder, but just I really feel like there's connection between the two. Like people are self-sacrificial and kind and will help each other, and that's what makes them stronger than the other side, which are unthinking, unfeeling, stitched, and monsters, and who don't have that kind of connection. I think it's that kind of thought process, and this happening right after us seeing the lambs having that kind of connection is important, because it shows that Mauer's not 100% right. Like, it's not just the purview. Well, I guess it really gets down to like one of those core Wildbow themes across a lot of his works, like what is personhood, what is human, or what like Mauer has a clear line as to what is human and what is not, or what is a person and what is not, and we know that line is more blurred than he says or he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even his idea is more blurred than he himself thinks it is.
I mean, that's kind of, I think, the point of his fungus arm.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is, we got a much more fun description of this chapter as well.
Yeah. Well, was it like the fact that it was like, he's like, yeah, it's all fungus. It looks like flesh and twigs all like melded together, but it's actually all just one big mushroom.
Or some sort of mushroom colony.
Presumably it's not.
Yeah. And he says that it's like constant pain for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a needle or something jabbing through, right? Yeah, that's wild. A fungus arm. What will they think of next?
Whatever it is, Mauer is not going to be involved because he doesn't want to help them on their experiments, which is why he's suffering.
Yeah.
I'm sure go ahead.
I just I don't know. At that point, they already got your arm, just like, I don't know, just what else? I mean, sure, they're going to get a little bit more data from you, but I don't know.
I feel like part of it for him, though, is like, this pain is reminding me why I hate them. So if I don't want to lose that, because then I'll forget the pain. I'll forget the
Yeah.
I wonder if there are people who were more badly injured than him, and now they're 95% fungus.
Just like a mushroom body with a human brain on top.
Yes.
Either that or they're just stitched now.
Presumably there's a point of...
They could do that. They could be like, all right, we'll take this human, we'll transfer the brain into this fungus, and turn the body into a Stitch.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Stitch need a brain. That's why they have like the personalities and stuff still. Like,
well, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, there presumably is a certain degree of triage where it's like, all right, if we have to replace your whole body, might as well just run wires through you and use you up.
Yeah. Well, if the body is unusable, they can't use it as a Stitched either.
That's true.
True. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe there'll be comics in this universe for Fungus Man.
Yes, probably.
Dime store novel.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't even have like I don't know. Maybe their stories like I mean, they can't really do their fictional stories are more like about mundane things. Like what would be like to I don't know.
Well,
go
we know that
walk a dog and not get eaten. I don't know.
We know that Mannequin is protagonist of one of their dime store novels.
Mm.
And wasn't Skitter in one of them, I think, also?
Yes.
Pretty sure there was a reference also to the other.
There were a couple of references to
other works.
That's right.
In the dime store novels, so
yeah.
That's true. I forgot about that.
And also thought it was interesting that he didn't like the name pant shitters for the artillery guns because that's crude, and he prefers his words to have power rather than vulgarity.
Hey, but like vulgar words can be pretty powerful.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting distinction.
Yes, but yeah, definitely interesting.
I've definitely heard people like from back in the day, and this is back in the day.
Yeah.
With their idea that like you would want to have your words like have power because of their content and not because of their shock value.
Yeah. Like it's different kinds
which I
of
assume
power.
is kind of what he's going after.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
sorry, go ahead. Jinx.
I was just going to move on to the next thing.
Okay. Do you guys think that Mauer, because I know he's a reverend, like, do you think he actually like has a belief in God, or is that part of his like?
I think he does. I think we've had a bit of this conversation more than once because, like, we keep learning new things, and I don't know if your opinion has changed with this chapter, but I kind of think he does.
I think that for the most part, nothing has suggested to me that he doesn't actually believe what he claims to believe. The only thing that kind of makes me suspicious is the way that he prays kind of performatively here.
Yeah.
It's like
it's against what Jesus said.
Yeah. What do you think, Jenny? Do you think he's full of it, or?
I mean, I don't know if I'd say completely full of it, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's doing what he needs to do to get his goal.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, the faith of others and his faith is a tool to get there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily means it's not also real.
True. I don't know why. It's not something that's very tangible, but it just feels, I mean, I could be very wrong, but just something feels off there to me. But
yeah. Well, when it came to him praying and like the way he was kind of like just praying as words of power to influence people, it's like that is the first thing I've seen that makes me feel like his religious inclinations are just to influence people and are not like actually something he believes in. So now I'm not sure. Now I'm starting to think that maybe he is like
a little sus.
Just but actually I was thinking before, like we had this whole thing about him being better at communication than others and kind of seeing the way they interact, but also had to kind of put on an act in order to like fit in with the others. And like I thought like this kind of looks like the sort of stereotypical psychopath or sociopath behavior you see in media sometimes. I don't know if it is anything at all like what actual people with those associated mental disorders are like, but certainly like in media you have this character who is like, I don't have the same feelings as other people. My entire understanding of how the world works is in terms of like how I behave and influence people. And so maybe to him like he does have to act in order to put on this mask in order to behave the same as other people. He has to put on this mask of religion in order to have this sort of
power,
but he doesn't really see it as being not religious because that's kind of just the way he sees things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know that I saw it that way or read it that way, so I can't
Yeah, I mean, I only saw that because of the way he mentions like that he had to like put on an act in order to behave the same way as the other people did, and I'm like, that looks like the sort of like masking that you see in like stereotypical sociopath or even stereotypical autistic people, because like masking is a normal thing for neurodivergent people IRL, but it's sort of also a hallmark of the sort of stereotypical behavior. So that kind of hinted to me that maybe Maurer is somewhere in that direction, and that might influence what's going on with him with his religious stance as well.
That's also really interesting in parallel to Helen, last chapter. This idea of like creating a personality as a mask to operate in the real world without problem.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I feel like, because you wonder if he felt, or if I might have said this, so I might say this and you're like, it said it like right there in the chapter. So, but like, but I don't recall it. So like, did it say that he like had to put on an act like before going off to war?
I don't remember.
Because I'm like, because it could just be him, like, I don't know, like
war
trauma. Yeah, war trauma. Because that really will mess you up. And that could make a lot of sense in terms of having to put on a mask.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it does look like it's tied to his experience in the war. He said somewhere along the line, when he'd been too heartsick and tired to care, he'd started acting a little to match the others as they'd cringed and cried out or swore. Now he wasn't sure how much of his reaction was real.
Yeah, so I guess it really continues to play into that idea that like he died in the war.
Yeah.
And like what's the Maurer that's left is a product of the war and the academy and all that, rather than the person itself who was there originally.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a reason why I'm questioning whether he truly has faith, because I feel like if you feel like you've died as a person, like, what is there to hold on to? And like, I feel like, sorry, go ahead.
No, just say I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we can.
Yeah, that might be something you can't tell.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about.
Absolutely. I put this bit here in the notes, and I don't remember. I just remember finding the contrast to be interesting. That like I think it's when they're going over the top of the thing. He's talking about like having like the passion in his movements, and then one paragraph afterward talking about how dispassionate he was in like the death around him, or seeing things being destroyed and all that. I don't know if there's much I want to actually say about it, or there is to say about it. Just noting it jumped out to me the specific use of the word passion and then dispassionate right after.
Yeah, it could be just a continuation of the theme of like him dying.
Yeah,
right. He's like passion is also associated with dying and passing on, and having emotion in his movements in the next paragraph. Dead. Rip.
Yeah. Well, because it wasn't also like when he sees that the stitched with the innocent eyes is dead, that like that's the dispassionate there, and like it's
well, even like the way he started to sort of feel that connection with this stitched in particular, being like, hey, this person is dead. And yet like I feel like we've got something in common.
And then being uncaring or dispassionate when that connection is removed.
And like actually there was that little bit where the stitched with the innocent eye was praying along with him, and he kind of remarked on that being a little weird, and I remarked on it being a little weird, but but like in the context of this conversation, maybe it was like a signifier of like being dead and like just mouthing the words just as as going through the motion sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very interesting fellow, this Mauer.
Yeah.
And a lot of interesting context from this view of the war and his, like, the worldview that comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Captain Edwin Gibson, who's, like, there at the end with him and was at the church and all that. They've stayed in touch. And is, like we mentioned earlier, seems to be the impetus for Mauer's worldview of, us versus them.
Yeah, or at least an enabler of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got the impression that, like, that line, like, "Oh, you look like you're more like them than us right now."
Oh, yeah.
Is
That
really,
comment definitely does
like,
set him on
that path.
Which I don't think was in any way deliberate.
Oh, no, absolutely not. It was just like, "Hey, you doing okay? Like, you don't look like you're too hot."
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, going up to someone and asking, like, "Hey, you look like you're a bit out of it. Like, you all right there?" And then that comment just, like, spirals into revolution and conspiracy and
like, damn.
It's like, no, I'm not doing okay, and I'm going to do something about that.
Yeah.
Well, at least the captain seems to be along for the ride. So
yeah.
I'm curious if we're going to get more from him, because he seems like an interesting companion to Mauer. Someone, like, more. I don't know if grounded is the right word, because I feel like Mauer is pretty grounded. But
I feel like the way this chapter ends, it's pretty clear that Mauer has more.
There's more Mauer
to offer to the story.
Yeah, I'm certain there's more Mauer.
From what I've seen of the captain, I think that if there is going to be more Mauer, then there is also going to be more captain.
Potentially, yeah.
That's kind of my impression of what's going on with this guy. But he is kind of a rather unimportant
ultimately
at this point.
So, like, he presents in a way for Mauer to, like, in theory, genuinely talk, and for us to get stuff about Mauer and, like, the movement or whatever. That Sai, who is, if we assume that Sai encounters Mauer again, is not getting necessarily.
Yeah.
Are there any other?
Anyway, that's all I had to say about characters here.
Me as well.
Me 3.
So it is the end of an arc. The arc Cat Out of the Bag. Do you want to? Does anybody have thoughts about that title?
I have a list of thoughts. Do you want me to just go through them?
Yeah, sure.
Well, first of all, we have Whiskers being released from the bowels.
We've headless cat.
Described Whiskers as a headless cat, so that's pretty clearly a cat out of the bag.
Yeah,
right out of the bag. We have a bunch of revelations that are made in this chapter. We have revealing of Mauer's plans and his attitude, and that was like a whole bunch of revelations, like the whole slow reveal of like what he was doing and what he was trying to do. We also had the expiry dates that were revealed. Those were all the serious ones I came up with.
The one that I kind of thought about is, this is potentially the lambs being out of the bag as a force for the Academy, that the force that the Academy has to call on to the rebel movement or the other side. Because, I mean, Percy never really interacted with them. We don't know what Percy knows about them, but probably not much. Whereas Mauer definitely has a better idea, assuming Mauer is tied to the same anti-Academy groups that Percy was. So yeah, I think the lambs maybe won't be able to operate as effectively as they would have beforehand, since they're now known as a project to the people who might have something to say about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was only Mauer himself deducing what they were up to. I don't think anyone else would know.
Exactly.
Unless Mauer chose to tell them.
Which, I mean, I can see him doing.
Which I can see, for sure. So yeah, that's a revelation for sure. Any other serious revelations or serious cat feline stuff?
Well, not really about the book, but I figured it might be interesting to just talk about, I guess, the phrase "cat out of the bag" and where it comes from.
Okay.
Unless y'all know that, but I feel like not everyone knows that. So letting the cat out of the bag means, well, revealing secrets, basically. So, according to Wikipedia, because like that's all you need to look, right? That's the only place you need to look for anything. So there's like a couple potential places where this phrase may have originated. So one suggestion is the phrase refers to the whip-like cat o' nine tails, which is an instrument of punishment that was once used on Royal Navy vessels. It was stored in a red sack, and the sailor who revealed the transgressions of another would be letting the cat out of the bag. Another suggested derivation is I feel like I've heard of this one before. It says from the pig in a poke scam, where a customer buying a suckling pig in a sack would actually be sold a, of course, less valuable cat and would not realize the deception until the bag was opened. Which is interesting. And apparently the expression has been around since at least 1530, because that was seen in a letter. It's been around for a long time.
Okay.
I did not know that one. That was
I think I've heard the pig in a poke.
Yeah, that's the one I had heard, but I hadn't heard the cat o' nine tails before.
Do you think there's any cat o' nine tails situations here? Like, there's the war, but there's not really any like punishment for mutiny or anything like that.
The closest thing I could think of, which doesn't quite apply, is that poor guy that's going to be the parasite experiment.
Oh yeah, Walter, what's his name? Yeah.
But that's the closest thing I can think of. But it doesn't
revealed his transgressions.
Yes.
Including omitting the whistle.
Yep.
So yeah, that fits.
That fits. Yeah.
We also had a couple of important people who were revealed to be on Maur's side. This guy who was going to be mayor, and that other guy who was important for a reason that I don't remember.
Well, there was also Parasite guy's dad.
Yeah, who was an important politician.
Yeah. So the revelation to the Academy that maybe the town isn't as much in its pocket as they thought.
But his dad is a politician in a different town.
That is true.
So he has affiliations to another academy, or even to no academy if there's no academy there.
Yeah.
So maybe he's immune to that. We can only hope for his sake.
That's right.
Yeah. And in terms of like the pig in a poke thing, where it's sort of a bait and switch, were there any bait and switch type?
Not.
I don't really think there was.
No, maybe Gordon pretending that the monsters are attacking. But not. I don't really think that counts.
Yeah, especially since he was trying to reveal that there was a connection between Maur and the monsters, which there was.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. There probably was one and we're just not thinking of it, and that's fine.
That's very possible.
But I wrote down that Sai refusing to wear a hood, if you think of his head as a cat and his hood like a bag, he's very insistent that his head stays out of his hood.
A little bit of a big stretch.
I mean, that's what we're here for, right?
That's right.
And I also wanted to point out that this has nothing to do with Twig per se, but it was during this arc that we had Basil staying with us.
And Basil is now gone.
Basil is a cat, and he came to us very sick and sad and in his little house. And he really, he came out of his shell, he came out of his illness, he came out of his corner to come bother us while we were recording. And I figure he deserves a shout out here.
Yeah.
Cat out of the bag.
Yeah. So he's off in his new house now and loving his life, and that's what we hoped for him. So
okay,
that's great.
I apologize for going back to this, but you're comparing Sylvester to a cat and being out of the bag, which is his hoodie. Are you comparing him to Sylvester the cat, the cartoon? And do you think that's where Wildbow got his inspiration?
Yes and yes. Next question.
All right, great.
Honestly, that didn't occur to me.
No, me neither.
You say it, it's obvious in retrospect. So
just have to wait for him to say suffering succotash. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Jamie's basically sounds the same as Tweety, so
There you go. Yeah, that's obvious. Obviously, that's where he got his inspiration for those characters. So,
yeah,
very different.
We just had that essay today released about his character creation process.
I haven't read it yet. Yeah.
For Pale had this really complex one. Twig was just Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I mean, and what it's like, Tweety basically rests on a twig, right? So it's kind of
there we go.
That's yeah, that's not a stretch at all.
Nope.
Yeah, complete sense.
All right. Anything else about the title either of you want to say?
No, but before the discussion question, and I didn't discuss this with you guys, but
it's the right place for it then.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, you've done this before, I think. So, you said that you've done it before, basically. Since this is the end of the arc, I want you guys to make some bold and specific predictions about what's coming.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, because this is as far as Tommy has read.
So this is like.
So this is the start
time. This is unknown territory for both of you. So
for the sake of getting it here, my biggest and boldest prediction is that, and this is the same one that I've mentioned, I think, last episode. I would not be surprised if if this rebel group is part of the established power structure trying to tear down a rival power, whether it's the crown trying to take down the academies or a rival academy trying to take down another powerful academy. I am pretty sure that the academy, like that if there are...
Oh, your audio cut.
Yeah. I thought it was me for a second. I was like, oh, crud, not
I thought it was too, because you started moving your microphone around and I couldn't hear anything anymore.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Where did I cut off?
You said, I'm pretty sure, and then...
Well, that's it. I'm saying I'm pretty sure that the academy is... that these rebel movements are part, or one of the different established power structures and institutions trying to tear down the academies, whether it's the crown trying to destroy to take the academy down a peg because they're getting too powerful, or a rival academy trying to take down Radom because it's getting too cocky or whatever. I'm pretty sure, if there's the average folk involved in this rebellion, they're being used. They're not like motivating it, though that of course does not mean that they can't take over the movement and end up, being something that the people in charge have lost control of. And secondly, we are going to see the demon under the house.
Ooh. All right. I like it. Just like, bringing me back to my own podcast. This is great.
Yes, except we actually have confirmation that there is.
Yeah, okay, Dante, what about you?
So I actually have read beyond this point.
You are what, 2 or 3 more arcs in, or?
I read up to arc 7 or 8, I think, before. So I remember the broad strokes, but I could probably make a tiny prediction about something that I don't remember.
Make a tiny prediction.
Tiny prediction.
Bold and specific, but small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
if you can't think of anything, I can ask some questions.
Go for it.
Okay. Who is going to be the next big bad? Do you think it's if you want to say Mauer, that's fair. But if you think it's someone new, do you think it's going to be like a monster or
I know the answer
person?
To this.
Okay, then you don't answer. What do you think, Tommy?
Well, we've gotten just narratively, we've gotten Percy, who's... I'm trying to really quickly think if there's any kind of like connective tissue, like in terms of things that we've seen and who the villains have or the antagonists have been so far.
Sure.
And there's nothing coming to me. I do feel like what we haven't seen, despite this arc kind of been set up that way, where we think that they're going to be tracking down. We've had 2 instances so far of them tracking down a monster that's preying on the people. There's the cat snake and there's Whiskers. So I would not be surprised if we eventually got an arc which is actually finding something that got loose. Probably not this immediate arc, because that would be very repetitious of like, oh, Whiskers is out, find him. Oh, this other monster is out, find it.
Okay.
But I I think that's going to be one of the things at some point. Oh, can I make another?
Yeah.
Prediction?
Please.
More the better.
That monster that the lambs are tracking down is Sai. Sai is going to break free from the academy, and the other lambs are going to be sent to bring him back.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. Okay. And another question, which Dante, you might remember this either, so don't answer if you know it. But if you don't remember it, then you get to, okay. Do you have guesses for I guess each of the lambs in terms of what their code names mean, in terms of like what kind of experiments or like what's going on with each one of them, you know?
We have kind of speculated on that when we first heard the names.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
anything's changed or
anything's really changed yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think we did get a reveal that Sai was meant to be kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
Which confirmed
it fit what you were saying about Wyvern.
Which confirmed my theory that Wyvern is kind of like a placeholder for whatever symbol you want it to represent.
Okay.
Yeah, Galatea was pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And Griffin was pretty obvious. And Caterpillar is still completely mysterious.
Unless those scars are where Jamie is going to like sprout butterfly wings.
Okay. Awesome. Another question. Yeah, sorry, I didn't ask you guys about this beforehand.
No, this is you're good at coming up with these questions.
Thanks.
And by the way, you're in the same boat that I am, in that you've read half of Twig and now you're rereading it again.
Yeah,
so you can answer these questions too.
Yes, what is your bold and specific prediction? Shoes on the other foot now.
See, the thing is that's hard for me to answer without accidentally. I don't want to spoil something.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I understand. That's tricky.
Okay, sure.
No, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But this is an important prediction that I want to ask. What is the next ridiculous thing that Sai is going to try to bargain for?
Birds.
I mean, if it's not birds, it's going to be something equivalently stupid and useless to him, but really wants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you guys engineer me a rat since I don't get birds? Or something.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be the next thing he sees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Shiny.
He's like, people blocking my way. We need badges. I want badges. Birds? Yes. I want birds. Being seen as equal to Mauer? I want being seen as equal to Mauer.
Like, ooh, shiny things. Shiny things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Another question, which I'm only going to ask Tommy, because I think even if Dante has gotten to any of these parts, like refusal to answer might be telling in some way.
So, okay. I will refuse in advance then.
Okay. Do you think, Tommy, that all the lambs are going to make it to their expiration date?
This is a wild bow work, so probably not. This is also an earlier wild bow work. You know, actually, I'm not going to say that because that's spoilers for Pale, so I'm not going to get too deeply into that. But Wildbow's never been shy about character death, so I wouldn't presume to guess which of the lambs, or even if, but I wouldn't be surprised if.
Okay, but if I made you guess, who do you think, if you had to pick one lamb that wouldn't make it to their expiration date, which one would you pick?
For impact on Sai narratively,
Mm-hmm.
I think Mary or Jamie would have more of an impact on Sai than Gordon or Helen necessarily.
Okay.
Or Lillian, I guess, also, but she feels, I don't know, she doesn't feel as tied into the lambs, to the rest of them, as I guess would need for it to be as impactful.
Mm-hmm. Well, she is the only one who doesn't live at the orphanage.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not.
It wouldn't be the same.
That's true.
So
okay, and then
she's also the second newest.
True, she is. Last question that I'm coming with these off the cuff, so.
You're good at this.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, last one, unless I think of another one, but I probably won't. Okay, in terms of the new lamb that's coming up, how do you? I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but we didn't go into specifics. Any guesses on how they're going to fit in, or like what their role's going to be.
I mean, Sai was created to fill the gap that Ashton and Yvette left.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably someone whose thing is like understanding people, because Jamie's thing is seeing and remembering and knowing. Gordon's thing is like manipulating people. So is Helen, but I kind of get the vibe that Helen was like added to this by Ibit later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the niche that's missing from, in theory, the original Lambs is the person who's there to like do the social engineering rather than the individual manipulation that Gordon does.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's also what Sai tends to lean into also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my guess.
Okay.
Nice.
I like it. Okay.
All right, I've come up with a small prediction that I don't remember. Which is one that I've hinted at before already today.
Okay.
Which is that Cecil is gonna shape up and become one of the most kick-ass members of the Lamb support team.
He's gonna become a beloved character.
Yes. He's gonna put Lacey to shame.
Well,
he's gonna be so amazing. They'll be like, we can't even imagine what it was like trying to run the Lambs Ridge project without.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be
then we're going to find out that he was actually replaced by a clone from the Rebels.
The clone's name is Beasel. Oh, jeez. I love it.
Fantastic.
Okay, one more, and this is a really annoying one, but I just figured. I mean, it's annoying because it's like, well, how do you? Okay, who's gonna win? Is the cat? I mean, in this, do you think that the Academy is, and like their side is gonna? I don't know.
I think it's gonna be status quo, is what you're asking at the end.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I assume that this is going to end with some kind of like sea change in the social structure. I don't know in what direction. I wouldn't want to predict, 'cause I don't know that I have enough context on the world and like the structure and the institutions really beyond like the Academy and the Crown and all that. But I would assume it's not going to end up with, all right, here's a new batch of lambs. The Academy's still going. There's a cat snake to be found. The epilogue.
Okay.
The epilogue will be just them tracking down another cat snake.
What do you think, Dante?
I think that it'll be kind of ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Where it'll be like the Academy is no longer what it was. The other structures are no longer what they were.
But is it any better?
Mm-hmm. And will the Academy take over again in the future? Who can say?
Yeah, I can see that. Like,
it'll just be like kind of level the playing field and leave it ambiguous as to where it'll go after.
Okay.
What do you think, Jenny?
Honestly, this is pessimistic. I think it's going to remain the status quo. I think the Academy is still going to be overarched and the same. And I think it's going to be depressing, and it'll seem like the Lambs didn't make that much of a, I don't know, are just little tools that got thrown aside.
I can see that.
I mean,
it would fit this kind of like the biopunk story, like you
as a subversion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be really bummed if I'm right, but I feel like,
well, see, on the one hand, that would be super unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And Wildbow is pretty consistently able to give satisfactory endings.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if anybody can make a bummer ending like that satisfying, it's Wildbow. So so I don't know where to go with that.
I don't know. I like that we all had different answers. That's the best.
Yeah.
So maybe people can discuss which one of us is closest to the truth, or if any of us is actually right.
Mm-hmm.
But don't tell us.
Yeah, don't tell us. Or like spoiler.
Yes. Discuss among yourselves.
Yes. Under spoilers.
All right. And we're just going to, I think, continue the discussion question from last time, which it's all not been very long.
Do you want to reiterate it? Because I don't remember what it is.
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head either. I was hoping you did.
All right, let me open last week's script.
I'm looking. I was running for that too. I was not fast enough.
If you were the Lambs how would you have handled the situation? Or in reverse, if you were Mauer, how would you have handled the situation of the panicked crowd in this arc?
Bonus discussion question. Would you want to know your expiration date?
Yeah, that's an important one.
Yes. And double bonus, discuss among yourselves how this story will end. And don't tell us.
Yeah. All right. Anything else either of you want to talk about before we wrap this nonsense up?
Finally, do you think we'll release this in 2 sections, or do you think we'll just pop down a 4.5 hour episode?
No. We really need to learn. I mean, I know it's a stereotype that like podcasters just go on and on and on and drone, but we really need to like learn to trim some fat somewhere.
Okay, but like the fat sometimes is the best part. Okay,
yeah.
So maybe, I mean, nice maybe they want to listen to all this. Yeah, exactly. We're the crispy fat, not the chewy gross fat.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're welcome for the content.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to us, and thank you, Jenny, so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
It was really fun.
It really was. Yeah, we hope you'll continue along with us for this trip into Twig, which you can read at twigserial.wordpress.com. And if you do, or even if you don't, please go to Wildbow's Patreon at www.patreon.com/wildbow and support them, especially in this period of transition between web serials and all that. It's,
yeah,
we want Wildbow to come back to writing things after his move, and I feel if he's still making money, that's more likely to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And everybody, please leave your answers to our discussions in our discussion question in our Reddit thread or the our thread in the Doof Discord.
You can reach us at totwigpodcast@gmail.com or TO Twig Podcast on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our discussion question or whatever comments you have. And our discussion thread is in the Doof Discord. Kind thanks to you, Jenny, and your colleagues there for letting us do that.
Of course. You guys are
cool. Next episode, we'll either cover 3.1 and 3.2, or maybe we'll do one of those bonus episodes we've been wanting to do for a long time.
Ooh.
Yep. So before we get into the biology or punk fact, kindly supplied by Jenny, is there anything you want to talk about or plug right now?
Yes. Tell us what's going on with you.
Or not. I mean, poke in comparisons ongoing, I guess.
Oh, you're asking me? I'm so sorry. Okay.
I was like, Jenny, what's going on with you? And you're just like,
I was like, okay, I mean, you guys are co-anchors. I figured you'd like co-host. I figured you know what's happening. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I was just in La La Land.
Yeah, you kind of were just sitting there staring into the camera there. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh, that's really funny.
That an uncomfortable question.
Like, guys, I have no excuse. I just, for some reason, I thought you were asking Tommy. So, and I was like, yeah, I guess he has a young child, and he's tired.
Yeah, Tommy, tell us all about Pale in Comparison and how you're wrapping that up.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, no, Malia and I are still doing Pale in Comparison. We are still calling it Pale in Comparison because we're still comparing things to Pale. But we are covering Poke at the moment. And we released our first episode this past week. Should be recording for the third chapter this weekend if we get our act together.
I need to answer your discussion question. I have things to say about that one.
Yay! I'm excited. I want to hear it. Yeah, so it's going on pretty good. We'll see how, if we're really lucky, Wildbow will write some more chapters so we can keep going with that for a little bit. We will have a wrap-up episode after that is done, just to kind of maybe do like a Q&A. We're not going to do like a 48-hour live stream because we're not insane.
In fact, going to 2 hours.
No.
Yeah, they set a precedent with that. You can't.
Look, they set a precedent with themselves.
Yes,
Malia we can.
They set a precedent with the audience for not believing you when you say we will not do an X number of hours of live stream.
Look, we are not doing that. We might do like 72 minutes. Okay, but no, we might do it for a bit. But
you've heard it here. It's committed. 72 minutes.
At least 70. I mean, that we'll meet that real easily. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll just go over Q&A, and I think I might try to bully Ruben and Elliot to come on the podcast.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it could be fun.
Yeah. Anything planned afterwards?
We're talking about
Please say yes. Please say yes.
We nothing concrete, but we will do something. But
Hooray.
Yeah, we will do something, but I don't know what yet. Malia might end up doing a podcast with her husband.
On birds?
No, well, maybe. You never know. They might. Ben would be so happy if he could just talk about birds for hours. So, so maybe. But no, I think they were thinking about doing something else. There is like a kind of childhood story that Malia and I read that it was considering doing a podcast on.
What was it?
Like it's the Enchanted Forest Chronicles. It's not.
That'd be so great.
Yeah, have you read that?
I did.
Right? Yeah, I feel like you commented on that.
I had read the first one.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there was more. And then you guys said that there was more, and I was like, "What? Where is this? Get me! I want to get." It's really good. So
it's really good.
That would be really awesome.
Okay, well, we might do that. So
that'll be so exciting.
Cool. Oh, it's fun to read.
I'm not going to hold you to it, but I will be very excited if you decide to do that.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad we'll have one listener at least. So perfect. That's it with me.
Okay.
And, yeah, I think. Great. Sorry, I really don't think you're talking to me. I don't know why. So dumb.
So, do you want to lead us out with your fact?
Yeah, I have a fun fact, guys. For this week's fun fact, it's a biology fact. In the late 19th century, milk was thought to be an acceptable substitute for blood, and that the fatty and oily qualities would become white blood cells.
Magic.
Because that makes sense. Somehow, a few people didn't die, but a lot of people died. Yeah, somehow.
I assume those transfusions that were successful were despite the transfusion?
Oh, of course. Because, there's no way. Yeah. So, yeah, I was reading this article, and I think, the first two were successful, and after that, five, the next five died.
That's wild that it...
yeah.
The first patient was a 40-year-old man who they injected with 12 ounces of cow's milk, which that was also something I was wondering. Did they use human milk or cow's milk? I guess they used cow's milk. I mean, Either way, it's weird. And that patient did great, weirdly. So
great or just survived?
Well, it says that he responded fairly well to treatment.
Okay.
That's all it says. So, it says, despite the poor outcomes of the next 5 people dying after the first 2 successes, milk transfusion became a popular method of treating the sick, especially in North America. Most of those patients were sick with tuberculosis. After receiving their blood transfusions, they typically complained of chest pain, nystagmus, and headaches. A few survived. Most fell comatose and died.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess one doctor. So it was sorry, I'm reading over this because it's just wild to me. But so most medical treatments today are tested on animals first and then on humans. But for milk transfusion, it was reversed. So they did human first. But one doctor decided to perform an experiment to see whether it was the milk or something else that was causing the poor outcome. So he bled a few dogs until they passed out, attempted to transfuse them with milk to resuscitate them, and they all died. But of course, he was like, wait, that might not have been the milk. That might have just been the amount of milk. Right? So it's probably the amount
scientific
of milk.
Method here, yeah.
Yeah. So also thought that using animal milk in humans might have been the problem as well. So he got 3 ounces of human milk and transfused that into a woman with lung disease who stopped breathing very quickly. He did resuscitate her with artificial respiration and injections of morphine and whiskey, although I think she did die.
Wait, injections of whiskey? Just
that's what it says.
Right
Injections of morphine and whiskey.
Wow.
I know. Wow. They don't do it like they used to. And honestly, it's wild to me that they would want that somehow injections of morphine and whiskey would help with her coming back.
Milk in the blood?
Well, that too, but if you died and you need to breathe, I would not be give morphine.
Here's a bottle of Jack.
Milk is bad for you, but milk and whiskey in your blood is fine.
Hang a bottle of Jack on the IV machine here and to the IV stand and
whiskey and morphine, because it's that's gonna, I would think, depress your respiratory drive, and so it seems like that's the opposite of what you'd want to give. But I guess it worked. So what do I know? He's a doctor, so he must know what he's doing.
Yeah, he knows better than you do. So
clearly.
I can't believe that this was the late 19th century. This sounds like medieval humor theory.
I know. It's freaking so by 1884 they decided, okay, maybe milk's not a great blood substitute. And then it says by the turn of the century, enough dogs, and they're man's best friend, and we need to stop this.
The humans, we could keep going with this, but the dog experimentation, at least.
Yeah, that's too far. So but fortunately a little after that we discovered blood types and all that. But so
kind of reminds me of that bit from Poke with the jug of milk. Because there was some blood in there. That would have been an okay transfusion.
Yeah, that would have been a lot better because
let's inject goblin stuff into our veins.
Okay, but at least
honestly, goblin stuff is magical, and that would possibly work.
No, there's no. I mean,
it might turn them into goblins rather than killing them outright.
A gas can of milk, blood, and I'm assuming 2 inches of gasoline at the bottom. Originally.
I wouldn't recommend it.
You heard it here, folks. Medical professional's opinion: don't use bloody milk, gasoline to feed your kids.
Also, just don't feed that to your children. Don't try to transfuse that into use that to replace your blood. Also, don't try to do any home transfusions. That's just not.
Those only work in movies, and even then.
I mean,
does it work in movies?
I've seen it. I think I saw it in The Walking Dead. I mean, I guess if you have the same blood type, but that's dangerous as fuck.
In The Walking Dead, they kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They don't have a choice, and hopefully they have the same blood type. Hopefully, they're both I don't know.
All kinds of hopefullys.
Yeah, all kinds of they're not they're not. We can't take their vital signs because you're supposed to take their vital signs before and during and at least monitor for any signs of reaction and check afterwards. But they weren't doing that. So but it's they didn't have that back when they were doing milk transfusions either, right? So
yeah, exactly.
And they were fine. So
once in a while.
Well, yeah, okay. Some of them were. So obviously it's fine. That was a wild fact for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else either of you want to say about Twig or Poke or?
Oh yeah, we're just getting started here.
Oh yeah, this is the beginning. Oh my gosh.
No, I think we should let these kind people go home and
go amongst their lives. It's probably a good idea. But it's been lovely talking to y'all. That was
really nice. Thank you so much.
We'll do this again sometime.
I'll come back on anytime you want. So
happily.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
You too.
Bye.